Hey all, Mooch here. Going live. We try to do this a little bit better than last time, so I have a different camera as I look at this. You'll have to let me know as I look at this. Okay, there I am, and there is Chad. Okay, there I am, and there is Chad. One of these days, I will remember to turn down the volume on the other one. Okay, hey all, cool. Patrick, everybody else, Justina, welcome, welcome. Give everyone a few seconds, have a few things up on the board that I'll bring up later in detail, just for the people who are asking questions. If you do have a question, I'll say, hey, just type battery mooch at the beginning. That puts it nice big red. It's easier for me to see as things fly by. And all. I think I'm going to have to go to the glasses anyway, which I hate. I apologize for the reflections. $3 each, but I don't care if I break them. I can just throw them all over the place. So tired of prescription frames. Much, much better. TJ Mike, what's up? William Holder, Aaron Jenkinson, Ryan Owens, Bones. Hey all, thanks for joining. And see what we can do. If anyone has questions, let's start on things. Charlie, thank you for the kind words. Otherwise, since no questions, some people were asking about the vape. I can't vape here during the show in this room because the equipment, everything is running and all the fans are going. But I've got the Machina. Everything I'm using dual stainless fused Claptons. They run at 0.13, 0.17. The Machina, I've also got the a Pulse BF with coil art. It's the postless, and I don't remember the name of it. Came with another mod. I threw it on here because it's slightly matchy-matchy. And then in the other room, because that's where I was vaping it, I've got the Minikin V2 with the Goon 1.5, and that also the same coils. And juices run, you know, doing kind of fruit stuff. I got Paradigms and Cabanas juices. And then on the Minikin, I just have some VG with a touch of menthol, because a lot just saves me a ton of money to use that. Okay, some questions here. Zachariah, do I have some specs on 18350s? Sorry, I don't. My older tests were so old that I can't recommend any of those batteries anymore because they may have changed cells. I don't know. I hope to do some testing in the next few weeks. Gregory Brown, parallel or series? Yes. Shakermaker 91, how important are vent holes on mods? There's a pop-off side panel. I mean, if you got a box mod, who cares? Because that panel will just pop off. For a tube mod, I haven't seen enough tests. I don't know if there are any vent holes short of the AK tube mod that will hold up to thermal runaway. I just haven't seen the testing on them. Any vent holes are better than no vent holes, though. But I can't quantify as to what your minimum you need or anything like that. Justina Glena, can you explain series versus parallel? Series basically, try to do this a short version. Actually, I'm not going to be able to do a short version. Series increases the voltage, but keeps the capacity and the current ratings for the cells the same. Parallel doubles the capacity and also doubles the current rating, roughly, for the batteries. I'm going to do an entire video on that just because it's such a big topic. But there's actually a lot of really good stuff out there on the web now if you poke around, but I will get to that in a video. James Robert bought a Galisi 21700 S35. Check the description, or check my blog at ECF. The link is in the description section of any video, and you can find the test report for that one. It's a good it's a decent 21700. It's about par. I think it's a little better than 2700s. I haven't compared them, the 5-leg ones. But we don't have many options for 21700 now, so it's about the only one I can recommend. There's another one that uses the same cell, but I forgot which. But you can check my recommended batteries table, and you can check the individual test reports by going to the pinned post to my Mooch Facebook page or my blog at ECF. Links are in the description for any videos, and will be in the description for this video once it's posted up. Terry Rogers, temp control, harder on batteries? Typically, it's easier because it'll keep scaling back. But if you're chain vaping like crazy or you have certain settings, it can be just as hard because it'll just ramp up to the same wattage that it would use for constant wattage, variable wattage mode. Excuse me. So It can be often, but you really can't generalize and say it absolutely is. Mr. Mufu to you. Some of these names are going to be a challenge for me. USB charging, do's and don'ts, internal mods. That'll be an entire video. Right now, I have to recommend external charging, just because we don't know which mods or when or how likely there might be problems. There just aren't any comprehensive testing out there and audits of the companies, because that's important too. You need to audit the company to be able to say whether there's additional risks in their things, their quality control procedures, how they design, how they document everything, the results of all their testing. All this stuff's critical to say bad or good. But USB charging lets you monitor how much capacity you're putting in, monitor the temperature of the batteries. You charge faster. It saves a USB port. There are a whole bunch of reasons to do non-USB charging or external charging. But I can't say in general that it's good or bad, because it's really up to the individual mod. Anthony Dunsmore, thank you very much. I really appreciate that, sir. Thank you. A donation, folks, just to let you know. Michael, is it Rajewski or Rajewski? Are you still hopeful for the Samsung 2700s in the spring or summer? I'm not predicting anymore. I have no idea. It all depends when excess inventory hits the secondary markets. And I'm told things by wholesalers or distributors who are told things by other people, and it just hasn't worked out the past year. So I've absolutely no idea. It could be next week. It could be 2022. I'm hopeful by summer. That's what the latest news was, though. But I didn't say that. Jerry Robinson, wow, thank you. Wow, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. James, Robert, thank you very much for your kind words. Scott Bruno, Brunot or Bruno? What's the best thing to do when a battery vents in your mod if it were to happen? Now, venting is just the little spray of liquid. It's just the vent disc popping open, out. It's hot as hell and it's toxic, but it's localized there. If you mean thermal runaway, just drop it. There's nothing you're going to do with a rocket engine in your hand that's productive other than just dropping it. If it ends up starting a fire in the carpet or something like that, you can put that out. But if you're injured all to hell trying to run with this rocket engine in your hand to a window, to throw it out the window or throw it out the front door or into a bathtub or a sink, you're just going to get injured. Just drop it and run away. Because every incident is different. I can't say, oh, you should always do this or that. What is actually going on when a battery vents? Well, at a certain temperature, the thermal runaway threshold temperature, assuming you're talking about thermal runaway and not just a mechanical venting of excess pressure when the venting disc cracks open, pre-scored underneath the top contact of the battery, don't have one. There's a little disc that, like the top of a beer can, you'll see scored lines in it, cracks open there, releases the pressure. But if the whole thing goes, at a certain point, exothermic reactions start inside a battery, around 75, 80 degrees Celsius. Pretty damn hot, but not out of the question for some users. Really, really hard to use the batteries. If that heat can't get away, if the use keeps going, if the temperature keeps going up, you reach the threshold temperature at which incredibly fast decomposition of some things inside the battery starts to occur. Unbelievable amounts of gas, and poof, the battery bursts. If you're lucky, it just sprays all out the top. But because the temperature is so high and the organic solvents inside the battery are flammable, you can get a fireball. If the battery is contained at all, like in a tube mod, all that excess gas and pressure can actually cause an explosion of the mod. DJ Mike D, best charger for 2700 batteries that sits comfortably. I don't have any charger recommendations yet. I hope to be able to do charger testing, but I just don't have any that I can recommend right now. I use power supplies because I can dial in the voltage and current I need for any testing. I have some Luke V4s that fit 2700s, but not real comfortably. Some fit well, some don't. It all depends how tightly that wrap tucks up underneath the bottom and the top to be able to slide it in and out. But I hope to be able to start testing. It's time and money, both of which I have none of right now, to be able to add something else on top of what I'm already doing. WHTT, would you suggest charging lower than half an amp if the charger is capable? Recommending? No, unless you have a 5 amp or a 10 amp battery. Really, below about 1 amp, you're not getting a lot of benefit in terms of extending life. If You can try it. Try half amp, try it 1 amp for the batteries you have. If you feel it, the battery being cooler at half an amp, and that may be due to the charger running cooler or the battery being cooler also, then that could add a tiny bit of life. But we abuse our batteries so badly otherwise. It's just not much of a benefit going from 1 amp to half amp. Typically, for most of the batteries we use rated 15 amp and higher, I recommend 1 amp as an all-around general decent recommendation, a compromise between battery life and charging speed. I do have a charging rates table. You can check that and see. I have the from the data sheets for a lot of batteries, what the standard rate, the rapid charge rate is, and then a rate I recommend for long life charging, which may or may not have an effect depending on how hard you use your batteries otherwise. Michaela, okay, I managed to see that because you capitalized it. Mooch, I got brand new set batteries charged, put in the Sky Star on one battery is 75, the other says 100. What could be the problem? I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. But the charger may not have done it properly. You could try swapping channels in the charger and see if all of a sudden one goes, whoa, it's not charged right. That would show you the charger the problem. The mods have terrible voltage accuracy, some of them. So it may not be. They both may be at 100%. Try swapping positions. If that 75% follows the battery on the display, then the battery is probably at a lower voltage. But if it shows 75% for either positioning of the batteries, then it's the mod. Clinton Caraway, thank you very much for the donation. Is using batteries that have been harvested from a DeWalt XR battery pack safe to use? No battery is safe to use. There's risk with any battery we use. Our whole existence in vaping is minimizing those risks. And, misusing or mishandling any battery entails serious risk of injury or property damage. And we've seen that in the videos. So we can never say anything is safe. So you want to minimize the risks. And the way you can do that is be using good quality cells from a good vendor and taking care of them. Now, harvesting from a battery pack depends entirely on the skill of the person doing the harvesting, because you've got to snap off spot welds, sand them smooth without thinning out the metal, without bending contacts, or any of the other issues that can be involved in essentially hand removing and using power tools, maybe, on batteries. So I can never say it's safe to use, ever. Now, it's up to each vapor to decide at what level of risk they want. I rock climb, but I made that decision to take that risk. Some people race cars. Other people go skiing double black diamond routes down a mountain. So you would have to decide if you trust the person doing the harvesting. If you want to do the harvesting, study, practice on power banks or something of very low current batteries, take all necessary safety precautions, do some research on that, and be safe. I'm guessing you're talking about Sanyo 2700As, but it's going to be your decision if it's worth the additional risk to get those batteries. Scrolling down to where the name is. Oh, and for anybody who's still joining us, any tables, ratings tables, if you're wondering about a battery, its rating, how hard you can use it, description for any video, we'll have links to my blog at ECF or my pin post on Facebook. All the table links are there. For Ohm's Law questions for Max or unregulated, see episode 2 of my videos. If you have questions on how hard you can run a battery on a regulated device, see episode 3. And for anybody did get a notification that's coming here going, got to subscribe and make sure that bell icon is clicked. Okay, let's go back. What's the best order for safety to set up a charger? Plug into outlet. Yes, plug in outlet first. It doesn't matter if you put the adapter to the charger. Just power up the charger first, let it come up to speed, and then put your batteries in. I don't know which chargers will or will not have an issue if you put the batteries in and then power it up, but the manufacturers say not to do that, and it's certainly something I would recommend what I'm doing if I was doing a charger. So I'd say, have the use stable, on and stable, before you have batteries in there. And it also helps reinforce not storing your batteries in the charger, which I recommend not doing because it can slowly drain them at best. And at worst, who knows, because it may not be defined by the manufacturer what happens if it sits there with batteries applying voltage constantly to the circuitry. Sebastian Jobin, is it safe to use a magnet battery to hold the door Yeah, it's not going to cause a safety issue. The steel can will be okay. There's nothing internally that's going to be affected unless you've got like a synchrotron, some kind of massive superconducting battery setup or something like that. Chris B, charge batteries to 100%, go use them 2 days later and they are 30%. That's bad. That's really bad. That sounds like very badly damaged batteries. Or there was something up or wrong in reading 100% the first time and the 30% is correct, but maybe the 30% reading you're taking now aren't correct. If you left them in the mod may be draining your batteries, I should say. Maybe the batteries aren't bad. Maybe the mod is just draining them in that time. So try charging 100%, put them in an insulated case or a box, just leave them on the side at room temperature, then put them in the mod, see if they drop to 30% after 2 days. That would identify whether the mod was the problem or not. 245 people watching, only 80 thumbs up. Michael D, do you ever plan to do any tests on various manufacturers' mods and voltage drops? I hope to. It's time. The new test station, that if I can ever finalize the shelving arrangement, I have the gear. I hope to be able to do that. But it's finding the time. It's finding the money to buy all the mods. You can't just test one mod because someone will always go, oh, well, it was that mod. My mod doesn't have that voltage drop. And it takes weeks. So I hope to. I think it'd be really interesting, particularly for mechs. Vape heads, damn Mooch, can you use Fahrenheit? Sorry. Everything I do, all the work I do, everyone I ever talk to, it's Celsius. I'm putting it on the vaping community to do the conversion. If I say 75 degrees C and you need to know what the hell that is. It's just, I don't know the Fahrenheit conversions for a lot of these because I've used Celsius since I was 10. And everyone I talk to all the time uses Celsius with the manufacturers and everybody else that I deal with. I'm going to try to do that more because I know some vapors are like, whoa, and at least in America, but everyone else is Celsius. But I'm going to try. But it's going to take me time to remember that. I may just do a table here, literally a small table, Fahrenheit, Celsius, for everybody to be able to use. Dow Reed, 1992, have been able to test the Fogstar batteries. No, sorry, I haven't. None of them. I think one or two are in the testing queue for the next few weeks, couple months, but otherwise I haven't tested any yet. Again, you can always check every battery I've tested or which batteries I've tested by going to the tables, going to the description, going to my blog at ECF, or going to the pin post on my Mooch Facebook page and following the links to the tables there. If it's not in the table, I haven't tested it. Scott Bogfoot, do strong magnetic fields affect batteries in the charging discharging? How strong? Anything we're likely to bump into? No. No, there's just the outside steel can. I don't know if the tabs inside are steel or not, but you're really just not going to be affecting anything unless you some kind of spectacular lab magnet arrangement. I wouldn't go playing and experimenting with some of the more ridiculously powerful, block neodymium magnets that I've seen on YouTube or something like that, though, just because I don't know. I don't see that being tested in any of the industry or academic reports. Davis, Heinrich Sons. I use Duo VTC5A batteries for my mod, and I use 50 watt, maybe sometimes go up to 100. Should I get batteries with lower amps? If you're using a 2 VTC5A batteries at 50 watts, it's only 25 watts per battery. You can use a battery like the VTC6, the HG2, the Samsung 30Q, get a little more battery life or a little more runtime, 10, 15%, maybe a little more depending how you vape. VTC5As really shine at higher current levels, 50 watts, 75 watts, like that. Down lower, try the 3,000 mAh, 15, 20 amp batteries. I think you'll enjoy the extra vaping time. Okay. Zhui Shan? How do you pronounce that? I'm sorry. But thank you very much for your donation. Mike Sam, what charger do you recommend? No charger recommendations, I'm sorry. Right now, I hope to start charger testing when time and money presents itself, but it takes 2 or 3 chargers. I have a huge list I'm trying to distill down of what tests minimum I would accept from me to be able to say a charger can do what it says it can do. But right now, no charger recommendations at all. Sorry. Chris B. Bought new batteries, IMR fully charged, let them sit overnight, down to 30%. So that's what was mentioned before. Everyone's batteries are charging at 30%. They were not in a mod, or were they in the charger in the mod? If they were just sitting out on their own, how are you sure they were charged 100%? Number one, because maybe the charger didn't charge them. You have to try a different charger or something like that. If they were in the mod, try that again, but leave them out of the mod. But otherwise, that's a disaster. You know, I can see coming down 5%, maybe, but not 70%. Brandon, please, folks, put, as I mentioned here, put battery Mooch at the beginning so I can see it. Otherwise, it's just too hard to catch it. Mooch, are any safety features in bypass mode? Brandon Webster, that depends entirely on the mod and how it was designed. Most of them do, I understand, but there are some that don't. Check with the manufacturer, check the user's manual if you have access to it, and see for that particular mod if there are. I wish I could vape. I'm going to need to move this setup over there. Vincent Mazziati, I ordered some of the VapCell 30 amp CDR. Super excited. Question, have you received any sales out of the DeWalt battery packs to test? No, and I won't test them. Because these are hand harvested cells, any cell I test, I can only say at that moment, it didn't blow up on me or didn't seem to be an issue. But every other cell, because it's hand harvested, there'll be differences from cell to cell to cell, and from person who's doing it, from person to person. So there's no statement I can make. If properly done, there's no reason why it would be any less safe. You know, as long as you're not moving tons of metal, not bending things, torquing the top contact when you snap it off and opening up the seal on top, not bending or misshaping the bottom the bottom of the can, not removing metal when you're sanding it down, which by definition removes metal, but not really thinning out the can. So I can't say, even if I tested them, I couldn't say, oh, that's safe or it's not safe. It's up to each individual battery. R. Chevy, have you considered putting out to the community to outsource some testing on things you don't have enough time for? That's an interesting concept, but I would think that if anyone had time and an interest, they'd already be doing it. Because I can't offer them money or anything like that. But certainly, I encourage anybody who wants to go do that. Now, HKJ, you can look them up, does some charger testing, and would have probably information from us. I should probably post that link, because that would help in the meantime. Shakermaker 91, what are some generic things to look for to spot fake batteries? I'm going to have to do a video on that because it depends so much, but there is one thing. If you unwrap it carefully and know how to rewrap them before you do this, and the top insulating ring, which can be black, white, sometimes colors, occasionally glow in the dark, and it is self-adhesive or glued to the battery, that is not a Samsung, Sony, LG, or Panasonic Sanyo battery. It cannot be. Those batteries all have loose rings. Now, if you open up a battery and has a loose ring, like let's say you open up a Sony VTC5A and has a loose ring, that does not guarantee it is authentic. Only that if a Samsung, Sony, LG, or Panasonic Sanyo has a self-adhesive ring, then it's definitely fake. But if it's a loose ring, it may or may not be fake, because the counterfeiters are starting to use loose rings now. Other things are like any LG has to have 4 legs from the top contact. Any Samsung, Sony has to have 3 legs from the top contact. Beyond that, all bets are off. It's up to the individual counterfeiter, what cells they use. I've seen counterfeit VTC5As using VTC5s. Now, unfortunately, that's brilliant, because on almost all the testing, it's going to come out close enough, people will go, oh, okay, because no one's going to be overlaying graphs and really checking the things to differentiate between a 5 and a 5A. So they're getting much better at things. Mike Vapes, dude, holy crap. Thank you, sir. Whoa, thank you very much. I appreciate that support. Thank you so much. Wow. Whoa. Steve Krolnick, is there a difference in current between firing a 0.2 single and 0.2 dual? No, but that comes with a caveat to that, or an explanation to that. In how much current, the maximum current that will flow based on a particular battery voltage, no, 0.2 ohms is 0.2 ohms, whether you've got 5,000 coils in series parallel or one 0.2 ohm coil. By definition, it has to be the same. But you're going to use a lot more capacity or watt hours from the battery, perhaps in warming up a dual coil 0.2 than a single coil 0.2. Essentially, it changes the way you vape, which can change the battery life that you get. Even though the current is the same, the ramp up time and then using it, and then we'll end up taking out more from the battery for a higher mass coil setup than a lower mass coil setup, even though it's the same current. Let's see, B minor. Any way to salvage a 0 volt battery? No, not safely. Anything below about 2 volts for battery, the copper electrode, and I'll do a video on this, the internals of the battery. It's sort of a basics version, and then the really nasty stuff that I really dig, more technical stuff. The copper electrode inside the battery literally starts dissolving at around 2 volts. This is why 2.5 is a nice cutoff. And the copper ions go in a solution. The copper goes into solution, into the electrolyte. Now, when you recharge the battery, that copper just plates onto different parts of the battery. You can then get crystal growth of copper, dendrites, you might have heard the term of, and you can get internal short circuits, which is bad. I tend to feel that a battery exploding in your face is bad. Some of you may disagree, but for me, that is bad. And so any battery below 2 volts, unless it just happened because you didn't notice something or I don't know, something, and you recharge it right away, it's not worth reviving. These batteries are cheap. They last a year for a few bucks. Just don't even try to revive it. This is why some chargers, and sure as shit any charger I design, will not revive a battery below 2.5 volts. Probably maybe even 3, but no, 2.5. Other ones do it, as a feature, as a marketing feature, but it's just not good policy. We take so many other risks using these batteries for unintended purposes, for what they're not meant to be used for, namely outside of a battery pack. Let's not take any extra risks. But again, if it just happened, if it happened quickly, if it hasn't been sitting below 2 volts, recharge it up. But otherwise, no, forget it. Replace the battery. That could turn into a rant so easily. Patrick King, how do we donate? You should have a dollar icon for Super Chat next to where you type in. Otherwise, in the description section for any of my videos, there's a PayPal me address. I appreciate it. Thank you. IR Chevy, hey, back again. Have you considered putting out... I answered that question. Am I scrolling back up? No. Okay. Devon Lethbridge, I use 2 VTC5As and a single battery mod for 2 weeks now, and I have a dual battery mod. Can I use these 2 batteries together now? Watch my video. What was it, episode 4 or 5? I'm marrying batteries. It's increased risk, and everyone knows, I hope, that I'm not for increased risk. But if both those batteries you cycle through, if they were never abused, if you rotated through the 2 batteries, if they're using the same way, you can probably marry them. But if it hasn't been too long, there's not like 100 cycles on it. But you said what, 2 weeks? It's probably okay. But as I have no idea the condition of these batteries, or even if they're authentic, I can't say it's okay. But watch my video on marrying batteries and then make a decision. See how you feel about it. But in an ideal situation, there shouldn't be a problem there. Ryan, thank you very much for the $20 donation. I really appreciate that. Wow, thank you. Keith Black, dude, towards some plywood. Thank you, sir. Yeah, you know how much fracking plywood costs? Yeah, it's just birch plywood, doubled up, because some of this equipment in a single stack will weigh 100 pounds to put for the testing station, which is one of the reasons I had to order some new shelving, because the way I move things and stack things up, is like 87 pounds plus some other stuff in one, like 2 square foot area, and it was not good what I was seeing the shelving do. And it's just a wood shop. It's not even a custom furniture place or anything. It's just a wood shop. And I'm like, what? Just some holes to put some 2-inch dowels through, put some pegs underneath, rest it. This is not a fancy thing to hold these shelves steady or something. It's just some frickin'... Okay, next question. But thank you, Keith. Andrew, Smale, much love and respect for everything you do for the community. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks again. Oh, you're going to make me embarrass myself with your name. Okay, Jri. I want to say, is it Jri or Jri? Juan, thank you for the donation and for your kind words. You have to put the phonetic pronunciation for your name if I notice the next post, so I don't brutalize it. Um, D. Millen, what do you think of the new Evolve 250C replay? Interesting. It's certainly possible. And if anyone has the technical and engineering knowledge to do it, it'll be Evolve. In my mind, when I first thought it, I'm like, that's not a complicated, big feature. It's a brilliant one, and I'm glad it's here because essentially it could replace temperature control because it is material or metal independent up to a point, as long as they can detect things. Stuff like Canthal, I'm hearing it's harder, but there's a rumor that Nichromadia worked on. But if a temperature, a TC material like metal or something like metal, like stainless steel, I see no reason why it can't be done, and I think it's a great feature. Now, how that works, how vapor, the issue I can see happening with it are vapors interpreting it. Shut up! Beeping. The VTC5A being cycled hard just to see its capacity loss, but I'll have the results of that in a couple of days. Um, a vapor takes out the cotton, re-wicks, and if it's not the same, are they going to be screaming that the replay feature didn't work, or is it supposed to take care of something like that? Vapors screaming, hey, that last hit I got when the cotton was essentially dry, it wasn't the same as the first hit. And I'm like, well, yeah, there was no juice in there. So I think a lot of it's going to be how Evolve manages the introduction and talks to everybody about it, essentially managing expectations for this feature. And it's also going to be how vapors use it. And vapors always find a way that the manufacturers haven't anticipated. And it's how the manufacturers respond to that, or how the community responds, and how we support each other, how the reviewers mention things and help spread the news. Like Mike Vapes is bringing out some things today, and that was awesome to see. Daniel had his sit down yesterday, and it's that kind of stuff that helps us learn and understand the advantages, disadvantages, and maybe any limitations in the technology, if it exists. But I'm psyched as hell to try it out when I win the lottery and I can afford the mod. Shaker Maker 91, how to spot fakes. I discussed that a little bit earlier in the video, essentially the number of legs, and if there's a self-adhesive top insulating ring, it cannot be a Samsung, Sony, LG, or Panasonic Sanyo. Gregory Brown, what rewrap are Amp King and iJoys? The 5-leg top contact ones, I believe they are Moly cells, INR 2700 days, but I can't say that for sure. Right now iJoy also has agreements with factories. I don't know the arrangements and stuff like that. So iJoy has some of their own batteries too. Maybe you're talking about that one. Chuck and Trucker, do unregulated mods run in parallel experience less voltage loss at atomizer? Why does it seem to hit harder? Yes, because when you're running two batteries in parallel, each battery is taking roughly half the current, which means there's less voltage drop, less voltage sag. So each battery runs at a higher voltage. If you have a single battery at 20 amps, maybe you're at 3.7 volts. But if you have two 20 amp batteries at 20 amps, roughly 10 amps each, might be 8 and 12 or something like that, now I might be at like 3.85 volts or something like that. And that's why it can seem like it hits harder. And that's the advantage. Always more batteries equals more better for anything. It's less power, less current coming from each battery, so they run more efficiently. You're wasting less power as heat. They're running at a higher voltage. Even in regulated, that means something because that increases the watt hours it can deliver, which increases the runtime. So if regulated and unregulated, more batteries, more better. Alvin, Malay, thank you very much for your donation. I appreciate that. Michael Harris, is it bad to mix batteries as long as they are mated? You can't mate a 25R5 and a 30Q. There's no mating of different batteries. The word can't be used. There's no marrying or mating if they're different model batteries. Ignore the M words. Marriage, mating, not mixing. Marriage and mating. You can't. Different capacities, they could be different condition, different age. We're taking so many risks otherwise. Just start with the same set of batteries. If you have to, you just buy a brand new set and you start from there. Can you explain PWM and vaping? Juxtapose 27. I like that. Here, basically, very quickly, what you're doing is just turning on and off the current. And you're varying the amount of time it's on and off, essentially the ratio between on and off. PWM, pulse width modulation. So I'm modulating or varying the signal by varying the pulse. I might have short pulses or I might have long pulses. And if I keep the time between the pulses the same, long pulses will send more power, not at the same frequency, but it'll end up sending more power on average, and that'll heat up your coil more versus lower. But I'm going to do a whole video on PWM and some of the technical aspects of it, and some things are very important because little $2 voltage readers read the average voltage. That's not what you want. You want what's called the RMS voltage, root mean square voltage. It gets a little technical, but that's the voltage that determines how much it heats up the batteries and what's being drawn from the batteries. So there's some complications to PWM. William Holder, where can we get a 2650 adapter? I have no idea. I don't know who's selling separate adapters. No, I wouldn't even know where to. Well, actually, I do know where to start. Try Fastech. Banggood. Somebody else, hopefully in chat or somewhere. But that's a good question, maybe to pose to the community through your favorite Facebook groups or ECR, ECF. Maybe not ECF. On there and see if someone's found that already, because you can't be the only one who's asking that question. And I've talked to a couple of the battery companies saying, please create these things, a line of adapters and sell them separately. And they're all like, oh, that's great. Haven't seen anything yet. Matthew Ballard, do you foresee any revolutionary advancements in the battery industry? No, they're all going to be evolutionary and slowly come over time. The stuff we're seeing now is the stuff that people heard about and were excited about 5-10 years ago. The stuff, solid state batteries and glass electrolytes and all that, we'll see hints of in 5 to 10 years from now. And then, maybe we'll find its way into batteries we can use then. But revolutionary? No. Batteries are pretty mature technology. They've been around for a long time. There'll be little steps, all of them great, like things that we're seeing now, particularly when you have economy of scale coming in with like the Gigafactory and Tesla's work and other things, which can accelerate the cycle for new technology to appear in batteries because they know there's payment down in the end when the factory comes up to speed. Well, I think it already has, but as opposed to an advancement found in a lab, and then they spend the next 10 years just trying to get funding for it. That slows down the application of the advancements. So hopefully things will start to accelerate. Let's see. Ward McGowan, what is the best 2650 up to 75 watts? Check my recommended batteries table, links in the description section. Justina Gloina, will you ask everyone to like this video for me? You're awesome. Well, Justina, we cannot refuse Justina, so everyone please, for her, like this video. And of course, if this is something you enjoy and you'd like to see more of, the likes and the subscribing is a way of letting me know that. Because I do look at this, look at those metrics, the analytics, and decide what is worth doing, what's worth not. Like, whoa, no one watched that video. All right, I'm going to move related topics down further. Oh, everyone liked that video. All right, I'm going to keep those topics up. I enjoy the live videos. It's just hard to find the time for so many things. Troy, how are the 2650s compared to 2700s? Typically better. 2650s are great. Folks, he's asking about 20650s, not 26650s. Jeff Buck, sweet mug, law. Thank you, sir. Kind of dig him. There's a little something different. Chris B, that was a different question. Just bought some brand new ones, charged fully. About the 30% thing? Oh, well, definitely. Don't store them in a mod. Rotate in the charger, charge them up, rotate in the charger, make sure both show fully charged. Take them out of the charger, leave them, check them a day or two later. If they say 30%, that something's really wrong with the charger or the batteries. And try a different set of batteries in the charger. Make sure it's not the charger. NZ Gallagher, is it okay to charge married batteries in parallel rather than individually? Yeah, they're at the same voltage. Otherwise, when you charge them in parallel, but every charger has independent channels, so you're actually going to have to wire them up in parallel. Oh wait, they are already in parallel and you're going to charge them. Yes, that's okay. That's not a problem. They will, if one, because of wiring or contact resistance or something like that, if one goes up to higher voltage, as soon as you remove the charging voltage, they'll equalize in voltage. So they self-balance. Jeremy Howard just says battery mooch. Cool. Vincent Mazziati, you're welcome. Luis Santos, Was going to rewrap my VT sides, got them from IMR, and noticed a glued insulator. Ha! Are you sure? These are from IMR batteries, and they are, well, I can't ask because I may not see your answer, but if you ordered batteries, VTC5s, and you got a glued insulator, self-adhesive or glued insulator, that's not a genuine one, and I would contact them. There may be something else going on here, but no, Sony doesn't use glued-on insulators. It should just drop free, or you ding, and flick it off. Whoa, okay, there's a question. Kevin, you didn't put that battery mooch. Do you leave the house with batteries charging? No, I don't. Never, ever. I don't want to be the one in the million that has, you know, something go wrong when I'm not there. I always recommend being around and awake when charging batteries. No, that's not convenient for anybody, especially me. And do I not do that sometimes? I'm not telling you guys about that, but I can only recommend being around. Again, risk reduction. We have so many risks and everything else involved in vaping. You can just say, I'm taking that risk, but understand you are taking a risk of being that one in a million. You've got a super low cost device. We know some of these factories have QC issues. Just understand you're taking a risk if you leave or if you go to sleep. And if you go, I don't care, then that's okay. Then you've made the decision. You know, it's like getting in a car. Yeah, I got airbags and ABS, but I know it isn't safe. But I'm driving anyway because I frickin' need to get to work. Well, we have to make those same kind of decisions with vaping too. But if you have the option, I'd say stick around. Rex Pepper, can I use LG Tchacos? You mean HG2s? 20 amp in my Predator at 100 watts. That is a question for episode 3. Check that out for all these calculations for about using anything in an unregulated device, what batteries work, how you calculate whether you're running the battery too hard or not. Episode 2 for unregulated mech, episode 3 for regulated. Some battery recommendations and also. Angie, Mooch, VTC5 batteries have the A printed on the battery? Well, yeah. VTC5As would have to say VTC5A at the end of the top line of the 2 that are printed on the can of the battery. If there's no A, then it's not a VTC5A. It could be a VTC5. Clinton Caraway, is it dangerous to leave a battery in the charge overnight? Dangerous? Probably not. Safe? No. Just as I was talking about, minimizing risk. Don't trust your safety to a low-cost charger for batteries with quality control and procedures that we have no idea are reliable or not. If at least, at a minimum, put it on a non-flammable surface. But I don't trust them. And I would ask everybody else to not trust them, to always be safe every time, no matter what we buy. Especially now with the lunar holiday, Lunar New Year for China, they lose, what I was hearing, up to 30% of their workers. Dimitri and Phil Basato were talking about this. So they get a whole bunch of new hires. They're all coming in. We don't know if they're trained well. We don't know who is the good assembler or the bad one, or who is the good QC technician or the bad QC technician. Why trust them with your safety? So if you have the option, I'd say no. McPop, what is hand harvesting batteries? What's the benefit of doing that? Well, it's just, you take a power tool battery pack, you rip it open, you rip off all the spot welding, you sand all the contacts smooth, and you use those batteries because they're not otherwise available, because they're all going in the power tool battery packs, like the Sanyo NCR 2700A batteries. They're such fantastic performers, better than the VTC5A. We can't machine harvest them. We got to rip open these battery packs, but they are hand harvested, so we can't always trust them. We could trust our own work, but we have to decide to trust if someone else does it for us. Zhui Zhan, I got close. If I let a battery, for example, on the table for months without charging, and its voltage drops too low, well, if it drops below 2.5 volts, then it's suspect. Check them every couple of months. Any batteries in storage. Batteries hate being in storage. Check out episode 5 or 6 of my videos. It's about extending the life of our batteries. Batteries hate being in storage. Better to rotate through them. Even if you have 20 batteries, rotate through them. That way you don't have to check them every couple of months in storage and bring it back up to like 3.6, 3.7 volts. But if they're under 2.5, recycle them. They're cheap. Shaker Maker 91, thanks for answering 2 of my questions. You're welcome. 34 is 1. That's an interesting conversation over drinks. What is your day job? I design power management electronics for my clients. I've been doing that since 1992. Battery chargers, power supplies, battery management and protection systems, energy harvesters for using solar, heat, vibration to charge ultracapacitors and stuff. And a lot of the work I do remote sensing and things like that. Automotive related fields work with ultracapacitors and lithium-ion batteries, using them together as hybrid packs for providing mind-boggling amounts of power for milliseconds needed to do specific things for automotive-related communities and stuff like that. And I love it. This would have been my hobby, but I actually get paid for it, and past, 25 years, I've been doing it full-time, working out of a home office. Shane Kernia, are there any companies outside of the Big Four you would say are trustworthy or good? I don't know. This is going to take, that comes over several years. That would be me seeing their factories. They have to establish themselves. Be good. I can't say anyone's up there with Sony, Samsung, LG, or Panasonic, Sanyo right now. And I don't know if they ever will be. That takes many, many years, in my eye, to be able to say, oh yeah, I would trust them as much as Sony. And consistency in terms of their product and so many things, and I'm just not seeing that yet. Some of them are getting some great signs from some of them. Ryan Owens, thank you. Thank you, sir, very much for your donation. That's awesome. Karen Petrie, Creighton. Is it Creighton? It's Creighton, isn't it? No, it's Creighton. I have no idea. I should shut up and answer your question. Oh, thank you for the education on batteries. Thank you very much. GMAT, PayPal me. Oh, okay, that's something else. Kim Svensson, chat is 2 minutes before video. Out of sync. That's up to YouTube. They're a disaster for some things. Also, I may be 5,000 lines before. I'm just trying to get to every question. At a certain point, I'm just going to race to the end of chat because I don't know how far back I actually am. Holy crap, I'm way back. All right, I think they're coming too quickly. What I'm going to do now is I don't know what to do about this. I'm just reading the time stamps, and they're stamped 7:30. So I am 20 minutes out. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flick, and I'm really sorry. But I need to start catching up a little bit with chat because it's obvious I'm not going to be able to get this building up much faster than I can answer it. And I'm also going to do shorter answers, so I apologize for that. Dylan, thank you very, very much for the donation. I appreciate that. Michelle Lynn, thank you for your donation. And let's see, Tobias Ripper, beyond recommendations, could you explain how a mod interacts with a cell phone charger? I don't know what you mean. Charger block's a charger block, but I will be doing separate videos on that when I talk about USB charging. Roger Zimmerman, thank you very much for your donation. I appreciate that. Wow. George's Garage, awesome. Thank you, and thank you for the kind words from down under. How's Zeta? What's the best way to remove arcing marks? I use a green scrubber sponge, dishwashing scrubber sponge, but I do that all the time. I don't let them build up because any mark encourages the development of more marks. Some people use very fine sandpaper. Do that carefully. Let's see. Sean, is it Hofer or Heifer? Thanks for keeping us safe. Thank you for your donation. Site Q, what are you thinking of vaping? 0.05 arm coils, single 18650 mech. It's way beyond the rating of the batteries. I can't recommend it, but you decide the risk you want to take. I can't do that for you. Blood Rage Engage. That flows nicely. That's a nice name. Non-battery related question. Go to juices right now. I'll have to get that to another one. Way behind. Tobias Ripper. Charging outside the mod. Again, the cell phone charger thing. Joseph, thank you. Ramoth Gold. Charging outside. Please just ask the question once. Apocalypse Survivor. Thank you. Yes, I will definitely do Peter Raymond's discussion. Brian Feeney. Thank you very much for the donation. Wow. This community is freaking awesome. Dan, thanks for all. Thank you, sir. And I apologize. Do anyone questions I'm skipping? 95% of the questions I won't be able to get to. I'm realizing that I'm just going to go way behind trying to get through this. With more efficient on cells, dual 18650, dual in series. It's the same. If you run the math, it's the same current from each battery. Could a discharge battery have shorted? Depends on the battery, but there's a lot less energy and a lot less current flow if the discharged battery. So the odds are a lot lower of venting or going to thermal runaway if it's discharged versus fully charged, which is one of the reasons why they ship batteries at half charge. Less energy available to cause any problems in case there's a short circuit during shipment. Dinosaurian Den. In-mod charging with 2 amps. 2 amp charging inside a mod does not charge the batteries at 2 amps unless it's a single battery mod. Because let's say you've got a 2 battery mod. If I got 2 amps coming in, I have to raise the voltage up. I have to double the voltage to charge 2 batteries, and that halves the amount of current available. A 2 battery mod, 2 amp charging block at 2 amps charges 2 batteries in series at about 1.1 amps, 3 batteries in series about 0.7 amps. So it's a lot less hard on the batteries than you think. Dan H., thank you. Thank you very much for the donation. Patrick Ritter, Battlestar Galactica, fucking love that. Some of the best writing ever. How much more battery capacity in 2700s? Check the ratings. You can check my ratings table. Lithium batteries, seen them, haven't tested them. You can check my tables to see which ones I've tested. Why does your piss smell like RY4? Because you keep eating RY4. How are the 21700 EFS? Check my ratings tables. Folks, check my rating tables. And the individual test reports. Video about my hardware. Yeah, as soon as I get this station finished. LiPo, battery safety bags. They're great, but don't put the charger in there. They're made for LiPos, which have the leads coming out, and the charger sits outside the LiPo charging bag. Don't put the charger or a mod with an internal battery in there because it traps all the heat. And a lot of chargers already heat up the batteries and run too fracking hot. So don't use them unless it's only the battery. And when I say battery, I mean loose cell, like a LiPo pack inside the bag. Otherwise it traps the heat. Gabriel, Michaeliscu, oh, it sounds Romanian or something, and I don't remember enough about that. But I'm going to try to answer your question. Fake batteries out there, anything we can look for to tell them apart. I discussed a little bit of this earlier. Buy from a reliable vendor. That's the best thing I do. VTC5A, make sure the ring comes off if you unwrap it. Make sure the printing is on the can, not on the wrap. Quality of the printing and all can vary. It's too hard. Our only solution is really from a trusted vendor. Todd Brown, long shot, tested new home life, 2700, Sherlock Holmes, it's in the testing queue. Pass out if I don't breathe, Craig? Yes, I think so. Do magnets affect batteries? Discussed this twice before. No, unless you have a synchrotron. How long do you recommend using a battery? I'll do a separate video on, well, extending the life of our batteries. Well, it really depends. When the performance drops too much or it gets hot, when you haven't changed the power settings, retire it. It could be 3 months, it could be 3 years. Dylan, did you check the Ohm Life and Homework batteries? Previously tested, but I'm retesting them again. Holy crap, I'm caught up on chat. Okay, Apocalypse Survivor. In all my mods right now, VTC5As. Dinosaurian Den, thanks, not a question. Subscribing, please. Append some trailer to your videos with a big head subscribe button. I always hate that because I don't like it when everyone always says, well, please like and subscribe, blah, blah, blah. I'm hoping if people like it, they're going to look to subscribe and do that. But I know what you're saying. Gabriel again. Okay, Gabriel, only because I have a friend of mine in Bucharest. Actually, it's in Denmark right now. But so I picked up a few words. I forgot all the curses, though, which is awful. Because there's some really good curses in Romanian. JTH reviews. Let's see. Curious, when do you think those monster cells will hit the market? I was talking about this before. No idea. It could be next week. It could be the end of the year. I'm not relaying estimates from the wholesalers and distributors anymore most of the time, just because we don't know. It's when the excess inventory hits the secondary markets, and that's up to the big customers of those batteries, because when they stop ordering all the production, excess inventory will form. Now we have access to them. Phil Lee, chances of ultra caps taking some ramp up load. I actually started running the numbers. It's just not worth it. You would need 2 thumb size ultra caps, because they have to run in series to take the place of a single battery, plus the balancing circuitry for those ultra capacitors to be able to supply maybe 1 second worth of preheat or initial surge on it. And it's just easier to put in another 18650. And now, if you need it for a couple of milliseconds or something like that, that's where the ultra caps can do it. And that's where actually I use them I think we only use them for 30 to 50 milliseconds to unstick diesel engines and things like that. Put 1100 amp surge through that, through the starter and get that thing going. But it's 30 to 50 milliseconds, and we only need, a fist-sized set of ultracaps for that. Because once you unstick it, sliding friction's lower. Now the battery can take over and get the engine going. B minor, kind of fire extinguisher for lithium batteries. None that I think some are rated for it, but water is actually the best. Aqueous firefighting solutions are what's typically used. Now that's lithium-ion batteries. Lithium metal batteries may use something different, but those are non-rechargeable batteries. But for lithium-ion, just run. Anything that cools the battery off is fantastic, but I would say check to be sure. Check for the fire extinguisher, what they recommend, or what they say they can be used on, because they're different compounds. I'm not familiar enough for things like sodium fires and lithium fires and stuff like that, which we're not dealing with. But there's some differentiation between lithium-ion and lithium metal batteries, and I don't know enough to be able to say. But the aqueous solutions in water brings the batteries down below the thermal runaway threshold temperature, stops the reaction. So those are critical. Let's see, did I skip anybody? The VC6 batteries have loose positive rings. Yes, all Samsung, Sony, LG, Panasonic batteries, loose rings. They must be loose. Not glued. They may hook onto it a little something there. You have to pop them off, but they will not be sticking. They will not have an adhesive there. What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a kid? Well, let's see, fireman until I was like 10 years old. Then I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember. Can a discharge battery vent if shorted or way too weak? Kim, I answered that question previously. It could, but the odds are much lower because a lot less energy in the battery. The current's lower when it's shorted, when it's discharged. Synapsis, check, I keep mentioning, if you want to know about any battery and how it can run or anything, what you can run it at, check episodes 2 and episodes 3. Sharif, do you find a lot of misinformation about how low I can go in Facebook groups? Yeah. Some people say, 3.6 volts and the battery explodes. 2.5. Battery will last a little bit longer if you stay above 3. My video on how to extend the life of batteries, for anyone's interested, talks a little bit about this, how we can extend it and what voltages you can go to. Whoa, okay, I'm seeing Mooch is here. Folks, please put battery Mooch in so it's in red so I can see. Can you use magnets as adapters, vape heads? Yes. Max Kim, Mooch, what is your all-day vape right now? I went through that at the beginning. I won't waste anyone's time with that. Well, you're asking, so waste your time. I don't have an all-day vape. Never have, never will. I might go through 7 juices in one day. Different mods. I've got the regulator in the other room. I've got a pair of mechs here. So I'm tired. I mean, I've tried all the sub-ohm tanks and everything, but I can never finish a tank before going, ugh. And then I'd want to waste it, or I have to, wait to another day, and I don't like letting juice just sit in the tank. So for me, just like 2 drippers full, and I'm done, and I want to switch to another juice. It's one of the reasons why I like just 70-30 VG PG with a touch of menthol, because it's got very little flavor. I don't get worn out from the flavor, but I get that mechanical vaping action that can take care of any urge. I'm a stress vapor mostly because I was a stress smoker, but until I get a new juice, and then I'm a chain vapor, but eventually I tire of it and it settles into my routine. So I don't have an all-day vape. Juxtaposed 27, thank you very much for the donation, and thank you for your kind words. Devon, how do batteries not short or bad happen when they're being made? When they're being made, there's no charge. You've got the metal oxide on one part, you've got graphite on the other part, and the electrolyte is added in, it's capped, and then it's sent off to be charged when it's fully assembled and everything, and there's nothing to short circuit. Now, essentially what they do is they rip the lithium ions out of the lithium metal oxide and move it over to the graphite in the negative end of the battery, and it's stored there, and that's fully charged. So nothing happens till it's charged after it's built, but I'll do a video about that to cover it more. Sharif, what's optimum resistance to avoid battery sag? There's no optimum resistance. The lower the resistance, the lower the sag. Batteries, I'd say around half the battery's rating, they start getting pretty inefficient. They're just not made for that. No battery ever is, no battery ever will. As the ratings get higher and higher, you're still going to get pretty inefficient. A 30 amp battery running at 30 amps wastes 18 watts of power inside the battery. That's a terrible use of a battery. Now, some people just go, well, I couldn't care less because I want to use a single battery mech or something. And I'm willing to give up any amount of power loss in the battery because I don't want a big ass mod. I want a single battery tube mech. Then it doesn't matter. But for those looking for more efficient operation, more batteries, more better. Malavadja. Lipo, how do I know it's time to replace it? Because it starts performing like capacity drops, the voltage sag is increased, it starts getting hotter even though you're not running it any harder. Lipos are temperature sensitive, damage sensitive, voltage sensitive, don't go below 3 volts. The very short cycle life if you get decent cells, assuming, and you're really just looking for crappy performance. It might come at 50 cycles, it might come at 150 cycles. Joseph Clymer, thank you very much, and your kind words. Crazy Face McGee, how long do 8650s typically last? I still have mine from almost 3 years ago. All the ones I bought I still use. It could be 3 months, it could be 3 years. Less abuse equals longer battery life. My video, How to Extend the Life of Our Batteries, talks a little bit about this. Some things are easy to do, some things are inconvenient as all hell to do to extend the life. It's really just how much do you abuse them. Cycle life count, cycle count before significant change in nominal voltage. What you do, the nominal voltage won't change as the cycle life changes. What happens, you get a, well actually it does, because you get a drop in capacity which will shift the discharge curve down, so your nominal voltage will change a bit. But you're only going to see that at very low discharge current levels to be able to look at the nominal voltage. Most of the damage occurs, in, let's say in the first, if you're abusing them hard, 10, 20 cycles, and then it kind of levels out to a pretty linear loss. I was cycling the 20 amp 3000 mAh batteries. I was using about 2 milliampere hours, discharging at 15 amps every cycle. 300 cycles later, you've got a battery that doesn't perform well at all. But it depends on the abuse and the temperature it reaches. It's temperature, 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 assuming modest charging and you're not going too low in voltage. So it's hard to quantify without more getting specific to a particular battery. Anthony Adonetto, why can't you chain vape on lower ohm builds? Well, you can. Just have a battery that's rated to handle it. Gonna have some strong words from my local vape shop. Whoops, that's somebody else. I'm mixing things. And can you use batteries from a power pack? Well, I've talked about this 2-3 times earlier in the video. You can, if you know how to recover them, if you've studied how to do it safely, if you're taking the safety precautions, and you do it right. Whether you trust someone else, it's up to you. Vincent again. I'm giving someone else a chance. Willie Billy, thanks for all hard work and knowledge. Thank you. Michael D. I'm in New York City, Ireland. Wow. Sorry I'm so late for you guys over there. I'm in Manhattan, a neighborhood called the Upper West Side, just off the park. So like right now I'm getting a breeze. I can smell the trees. It's fantastic. I love the neighborhood. And I grew up about a half mile north of here, went out to Queens, spent a lot of time out there, had an opportunity to move back in the city and been digging it since. Angie D, thank you for your kind words. Thank you. Recommend trusted vendor. Description, I have about a dozen of them. Description for any of my videos has my trusted vendors list, the links there for Europe and the US. Any of them have gotten good ratings from people in the community, and the ones I've ordered from I've had no problems with. Ben S., thank you for your donation. What's my go-to build? Dual fuse Claptons in 0.13 to 0.17. They get hot, 0.17 to 0.21. Yeti wire, some astounding, wonderful coils. Vape heads. Some of your vapes you're using. I did at the beginning. Thinking of changing my charger. Which Nightcore D2? I'll show now. I was using the Machina and Pulse BF with a coil art, which I forgot the name of. Came with their box mod. Then I have a Minikin V2 with a Goon 1.5 in the other room, which I forgot to bring here because that's the room I'm vaping in. Taco Man, thank you for your kind words. M. Fraze or Fraze, do you know where I can find cases to 2700s? No, but you can check around. Fast Tech will probably have them in. I use 26650 cases, but I've heard a couple of people, they don't fit in those. Can I recommend Guillermo Tavares? Thank you for your donation. I can't recommend recommend Nitecore chargers only because I haven't tested them. I haven't tested any chargers I can recommend yet. I've heard good things and bad things in the community, which is one of the reasons why the testing is so hard, because I'm going to have to test a lot of them, because if they're QC issues or assembly issues, it's going to take a lot of testing a lot of chargers to see if that's an issue or not, because I could get 2 chargers and have perfect results and then get a third charger and it's a dog. So I don't know. I can't say one way or the other. I'd say those are the kind of questions where you go to the community, Facebook page or ECR or something, and say, hey, who's had good results with Nitecore? And you kind of sort through the answers and say, oh, okay, almost everybody's had good experience, or oh, almost everyone's had bad experience, and be able to use that. But hopefully I can start testing this spring. My vaping place. Yo, what's happening, bro? Stuff. The Vapist. Would you do any coil videos? Probably not. There's enough battery stuff already stacking up, dozens of things to do. How do we donate to you? If there's no $ next to your box where you type in things, you can go to any of my descriptions, any of my videos, and there's a PayPal address there. Thank you. College lecturing. If a battery takes longer to charge than other batteries, what's that mean about the battery? Might be higher capacity. It could mean higher internal resistance, which for various reasons forces the voltage up to 4.2. So the current drops, takes longer to charge. It may have been discharged further than the other batteries. There are too many different unknowns. There could be something wrong with that charger slot. There could be a lot of different reasons. I don't know which one it is. You kind of have to go through the process of elimination to try to figure out which one of those things it might be that's causing the issue. Phenom, thank you. Ha! Holy crap. Thank you, Phenom. That's mind-boggling. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Wow. That shut me up. Holy crap. Okay. Wow. I've never seen that color for a donation before. Thank you again for your support and your kind words. That's awesome. Nick Fenton. So resistance is imperative to checking voltage drop on a mod. The internal resistance of the battery is what determines the battery's sag. The current times the internal resistance of the battery is that first initial sag, and then it discharges from there. Yes, you can use a 1 ohm load, you can use a 0.1 ohm load or a 0.5, but you have to go very, very quickly. It's because if you're checking battery voltage sag, you don't want to take 3 seconds to measure the voltage because it comes down and then it's discharging. If you use a 1 ohm load, you're not discharging too hard. But the thing is, if you're testing batteries, the higher the current, the more accurate you can be because it's a bigger voltage drop, and it's easier. You get a finer resolution in terms of measuring the voltage and what that is. But you can do it that way. Just take all the safety precautions if you have to. Willie Romero, using X-Tar charges. Yeah, some people have good results with those. Refer to Spawn film. Malvodesia. I saw the original Spawn. Is there more than one Spawn? I may have to check that. Philip Hicks, what battery charger do I use? I have 3 Luke V4s, which I like for just get a bunch of new cells and just bring them all up. But I use power supplies, constant current, constant voltage power supplies, because I can set the current and voltage I want for any charge, which is necessary for my testing. Mooch, Kevin, got to get that in red. Why do some mods get better battery life than others? I think the biggest reason for that is the cutoff voltage. If one mod has a 3.4 cutoff voltage, the other one is 2.8, there's going to be a fundamental difference in the battery life between those mods at the same power level. There are slight differences in the efficiency, maybe 5% difference, but if you're seeing more than maybe 5% or a few percent difference in battery life, it is probably due to the cutoff voltage of the mod. Or if it has a timer attached to it. One might have a 3-volt cutoff, but if it says, you can go below that for 3 seconds before I turn off, versus one that turns off the instant you hit 3 volts, that'll be very different overall battery life also. Again, Jackson Duffy, or anyone, please put battery Mooch so I can see it in red. Better to run a battery 3.2 than charge, or charge frequency in the battery is only 4 volts. 4 volts, that's too soon. Batteries like shallow discharge. Well, they like being in the middle. Not sitting at 4.2, not sitting at 2.5. Just run in the middle. So you don't want to keep them fully charged all the time, but you don't want to run them down to 3.2 all the time. That's really inconvenient though. So without going crazy about it, because we abuse them so much anyway, don't worry about, just don't run them down to all the time, but if you have to, do it. And don't keep them charged all the time. It's just somewhere kind of floating in the middle. Like charge them right before you use them, as opposed to, that can be really inconvenient, as opposed to charging the night before and letting them sit fully charged. Wendy Blank, flashlights. Same info listed as one advertised for a vaping device. Aren't they the same? Well, if it's the same model number, it's the same battery. It's just marketing is what they say you can use for vaping or flashlight or power bank or whatever. It's the battery's model number. And if it's not one that we know that's the rating for, then who cares what they say it's good for? We shouldn't use it. Vaping with Ken. Thank you for your kind words. The man? No. CS, what's your real name? John Macau. Is an Core IA charger a good charger? Philip Wheeler? I don't know. I've heard good reviews from people talking about it, but I just haven't tested the chargers yet. Clinton Caraway, iJoy 2615, stack 2, need to recharge. I wouldn't bring them below 3, but odds are you're going to think it's a crap vape by the time they hit 3.2 something, which will bounce back up to maybe 3.5, 3.6. If you take them out and a few minutes later, they're at 3.5, 3.6, odds are you're running them down to about 3.2, and that's okay. If you take them out and a few minutes later, they're sitting at 3, you're running it too low because the battery sag will go a lot below that. Blood Rage Engage, how do you get into your line of work? Always fashioning electronics. Yes, since I was like 10 years old, I was tearing things apart. Self-study, thousands of hours of self-studying. College, the electrical engineering programs in college back in the late 1970s and early 1980s when I was there, it was all math, it was all calculus. I hated it. I went to a specialized high school which had a 2-year program in electrical engineering, which was all practical application electronics. And that's what fired me up. That's what made me think I want to do this for a living. Got to college, hated it. When I got out, I did a stint as a commercial photographer for a few years, but ended up modifying all my equipment and stuff for other photographers and realized I want back into electronics and just made the big decision in 1992 to do it full-time from home. I was working for Hewlett-Packard part-time then. I kept doing that while I transitioned over to mini computers for Hewlett-Packard and transitioned over to doing full-time and loved doing it ever since. Channel, I'm not going to try your first name because I'm reading too quickly. How to diagnose a condition in 1860s unknown? Yeah, you can carefully cycle them and see, discharge them at a low current rate and then put them on a charger that counts the capacity going in. Testing unknown batteries is always tough. Do it slowly, do it carefully. Corey Turnbull, do you know what specific battery packs that have better 2700s? No, not because I don't recommend people do that. I'd say do the research, find out. There's a ton of YouTube videos about that. I just haven't, I've seen the names go by and I just don't remember them. Because I'm not going to be recovering from battery packs and I wouldn't buy from someone else recovering because I just don't know what job they're doing. And besides, I would do it myself just because it would be interesting if I had the time and the money to be able to do that. Celtic Death, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen sparrow? The answer to everything is 42. Sepik, is my observation true that mech delivers smoother vaping than wattage modes unregulated? I don't think so. By definition, a mech is not more consistent delivery because the voltage is dropping as you're vaping. Now, maybe you're getting less spitting on a mech because the voltage is dropping, so the power levels are dropping on your mech versus regulated that maintains the same wattage throughout it and that heats up the coil more, which causes more spitting. I don't know, there are too many variables involved, but by definition, a mech has a varying vape as you proceed through your pull. Now, some people love that. When you find your sweet spot in a mech, I have to admit, come on. It's awesome, but I can also find an awesome sweet spot unregulated. So much of it's personal preference and trying both. Like one isn't inherently better than the other. Consistent wattage vape or a vape where the wattage trails down. So you pick the one that works for you. Let's see how. We'll go on another 10 or 12 minutes here. I don't want to step on, definitely want to get a little food in here eventually, and I don't want to step on. There's something out at 9, and I forgot who's tonight. Is Dimitri or Dimitri and Phil? David Powell, Galisi 2650 came with the Aegis Kiss, a good kit. Must be thinking of my girlfriend. Came with my Aegis kit, good battery. Yeah, actually for 2650, it's one of the better ones. There's 2 or 3. My recommended batteries table has everything. Check the link in the description to my blog or my Facebook Mooch page, and there'll be links to my recommended batteries table for anything. Nick Fenton, you're welcome. Nietzsche, okay. Apocalypse Survivor, Yeti stainless. NGD, I hope we're not overwhelming you with all this. Thank you for your kind words. No, I can always slow down, but I don't seem to run it slow. That's not an option in my transmission. Fenson, will you make a tutorial about PWMs? I spoke about this before. Yes, I will. Michelle Lynn, Del Dime. I built a lot of parallel 1860 box mods. Ohm rating doubles. Ohm rating doubles. No. No, the ohm, in terms of the ohms you can use. Oh, I think what you're saying. Yes, you can use half the ohm rating. It's easier if you just talk about the current for the batteries. In parallel, no. If you have two 20 amp batteries put in parallel, you can't call it 40 amps because the batteries aren't going to split their current equally. One's always going to supply more than the other due to internal differences of the battery and differences in contact resistance, wire resistance, etc. They'll always equalize their voltages once you stop vaping, but during use, one will always operate at a higher voltage than the other. One will always supply more current than the other. If it's a good setup, I say 15%. One battery will run 50% more than the other. So maybe, if you've got two 20 amp batteries in parallel, theoretically it's 40 amps, call it 35 amps that you can get from there before there's a chance of maybe exceeding a battery's rating. Some people use 50%. They'd say, hey, no, two 20 amp batteries in parallel, that's only 30 amps, we should call it. Well, it's a more conservative approach, lower risk, and it makes the batteries operate more efficiently also to lower the rating on them. Keith Black, did you think there'd be this many questions on chargers? No, I'm surprised. That is by far the #1 biggest request for a future video. And it's one that's going to take me hundreds of dollars and weeks, if not longer, before I can even approach doing a video on it because I have to do all these tests. So I don't know when I'll be able to do it. Matt Haw, any advice about EFES metallic purple 2650 5000 watt 45 amp? Haven't tested it. Again, any questions about any battery, check the links in the description. Go to my Facebook page. Go to my blog at ECF, check my tables. Not there. If I don't have a test reported on it, I haven't tested it. Where did Mooch come from? That's the big question. That is the big question. I just woke up one day and there was a battery in my hand. Do batteries even explode nowadays? Dinosaurian? Yeah, all the time. There's just some posts of Smock X8s. I've got about a dozen here. I'm testing V8s and X8s. 2 of them went boom. Modest Scrub. I was curious why series boxes buzz hum when the batteries are set at low voltage. A MEC series or a PWM series? The PWMs can hum just because you're hearing the MOSFETs turning on and off, the current pulsing. But otherwise, I don't know why they true MEC series box with hum. James West, can you talk sometimes about more efficient coils for a warmer vape? I'm still waiting for the results for some coil efficiency testing and stuff that challenge some builders and stuff to talk to, but I hope to be able to talk about that more because it helps the batteries run more efficiently and it's better overall. Pat Valvey, which is better for the same use? VTC5As over VTC5. Yeah, it's my #1 pick for best overall battery. Stephen, any batteries that you would not recommend? Well, certainly any of the ones on my tables where I say no, do not buy, just because of not experiences, but practices of the company or the certain level of ridiculousness on the ratings. And I just say don't buy. But so much it's variable. That's why I don't have a list of do not buy or not recommended, just the serious do not buy, and I just stay to the recommended ones because everything else in between, just if you have to use them, otherwise, stick with the ones that are recommended. Samsung, Sony, LG, Panasonic, Sanyo, with a high enough current rating for the way you vape. Michael Mayer, how do regulated mods step up voltage? Magic. It's entirely magic. It's awesome. It's actually awesome, especially when you go into the factory and see the pixel fairies, waving the wands over the mods as they go by to charge up the magic on it. That's freaking awesome. But do not get in the way, because that crap hurts if you get some of the pixie dust on your hand or something. You don't realize the power in that. Um, what, I'll be going into a little bit about how regulators work, but essentially what you do is you're dividing up the current a couple 100,000 times a second, pulsing it on and off, sending these pulses through, shaping the voltages of the pulses, and then smoothing it back out with capacitors at the other end at the new voltage. So they step up the voltage, they lower the current, and you get this higher voltage, lower current DC out the other end. But it's actually kind of interesting. Well, all right, for a couple people on the planet, it's kind of interesting how it's done. I'll probably address it in one of more advanced videos. Tater Keith, what is the toughest battery wrap in the market? I have no idea. There is a polycarbonate one. I forgot who, but they're redoing the batteries, the wraps before they, because it was a little brittle for me. I had some issues with them. Polycarbonate wraps are awesome, but they're thicker. Any tougher wrap is going to be a lot thicker. That's a tremendous issue for a lot of people. And you need a heat gun then, as opposed to a hairdryer, which is also an issue for some people. But I have no recommendations. Sorry. Tony Berry, Mooch, any news of the 30T yet? No, not yet. It could be months. Talked about that a couple times before. Blood Rage Engage. Do you think that as vaping becomes more widespread, battery manufacturers will begin to sell more of their batteries like the ones they only put in drill power packs separately? They are sold separately to customers who put them in the power packs. Sanyo, they sell 100% of their output is sold to the big customers who make the commitment for multiple years and give them millions of dollars to either lock in production or to get a definite supply. We have to wait until that demand to drop. We have to wait until excess inventory forms, till it's sold off in the secondary market, and our distributors have access to it. And so it's totally up to how popular these drill packs are, or other uses for these cells, for the manufacturers to stop using up all the capacity of the factories. David Powell, some of your MXJOs are only charging a 4.1, throw them out. Don't know. If they're exhibiting lower capacity, if they're not running as long, that could be an indication, along with the lower voltage charging. It could be a charger. I'd say try them on a different charger, see if they go to 4.2. But if they're staying to 4.1 and 5 hours later they're still at 4.1, that can possibly be an indication they're starting to reach end of life. But if you're not seeing capacity loss, then they may not be. There's just not enough information to say for sure. Corey Turnbull, I'll do your research. Thanks for kicking ass. Thank you, sir. Take a toot. I can't take a toot because the equipment's on and no vaping in this room. Not going to turn a $400 calibration into a $1,000 calibration. Do I have a favorite RDA or mod? No. I switch constantly, all the time. I do like the Minikin V2. I do like my eFusion Duo with the panels. Still use this a lot. I still use the T18 for just little tootle puffing in the neighborhood when I don't want people to yell at me if I go out during the day. I just bounce around. I just like variety. Are there any sources for the 30T? Jeremy, no. What is the price? Your price to sell out? I settled on $10 million. And that's because I can put $2 million towards advocacy. I can put $2 million towards starter kits for a bunch of vapers. I can give my family a couple $1 million. Then the $3 million left over I can use to totally bust and expose the pricks who tried to buy me out for $10 million. So $10 million and I'll sell out. I use the Aspire and iDroid 2650s. Good batteries? Yeah, they're both the same. And along with the Golisi, and they're probably the best of the 2650s for above 10 amps. Safest way to find out a C rating or amp limit of an unknown battery? Gabriel, that involves a bunch of testing. And that you're going to have to research on the web. You can buy 150 watt constant current electronic loads, and you can set up a testing methodology, but you have to be able to measure temperature, multiple discharges, a lot of things are involved, and safety is a huge issue when you're testing your own batteries. So it's going to have to take a pile of research. David Welch, is there a way to make my mech mod hit harder without decreasing the ohms of the coil? Cleaning. If you're not going to change mods, then it's cleaning, making sure the coil is in tighter, using VTC 5A, that's your best option for an 18650. Than that, you got to go to a series mod or a parallel to reduce the voltage drop. I'm a vapologist. My batteries are leaking electronics. Which wraps from Fast Tech would you recommend to stop this? I wouldn't recommend the ones from that. I would go to Sanyo National Laboratory, and they have titanium wraps there. Now you have to pour the molten titanium around the battery and form it, which makes the battery explode. So it has to be done quickly. There are all kinds of issues on that. Leaking electronics. Is there a serious question under that? Or am I being trolled? I don't know. Ask again if it was serious. My apologies. Maybe it was. Team Cersei or Danny? Danny's such a... The one who plays her, it's just such a terrible actress. There's just no emotion there. So you got to go for the bad girl. But there's nothing like a good dragon burning too. So I don't know. What do we get to wait? Another 5 years and we'll find out? Leventhal, vapologist. Batteries leaking electrons. The Vastec, can't answer it. Andrew Small, would automotive shrink wrap be a good battery wrap? It's probably thick. I've tried some of the electronics battery wrap, including the ones that have an interior that melts. So it just seals everything up incredibly well. But the battery's huge then. If it covers it, if you can still get a battery in and out of the mod, if the insulating ring is still there, I can't think of any reasons not to use it as long as everything still fits and you're not ripping the wrap because you have a thicker battery now. Mooch, why doesn't the vapor industry make its own batteries? Small market with monster liability issues? We're lucky we get any batteries. Vaping community will not make their own batteries. Now, there are a lot of China factories coming online the past year that are targeting us and changing batteries and getting better batteries, just seeing better and better stuff out of China. So I guess there are some people making batteries for vaping, but not for vaping. We don't need anything different than any other industry needs for batteries. We just, as soon as you go to these round cells, that's ridiculous in terms of safety. We need a fundamentally different battery, and no one's going to have millions of dollars for that to build a, quote, inherently much safer battery than one that needs a piece of plastic at the top to keep from short-circuiting the positive and negative part of it. Pat Valvi, is this live stream going to be every week? Thank you for your kind words. I don't know. This is brutal finding the time for this. And it's exhausting. It's truly exhausting. I enjoy it though, and it seems to help with a lot of the questions. Hopefully it takes some of the heat off the couple hundred questions, written questions a day I get. I don't know. I don't know when I'll be able to do this. I'll see what some of the feedback is, what my schedule is and things. Blood Rage Engage, I'm going to answer it a couple times. I'm going to go to people who are answering their first question. My apologies. Ian, Cole Morgan, work for Vape Shop. Tell all my customers, check out your channel. Keep up the good work, man. Thank you very much. NGD, do Sony A650s without the A suck? Well, okay, I'm not going to do that joke. No. It just may be for different use. They may have a lower current rating, but they're all prime, incredible quality batteries. It's just the BTC 5A, 4A, and 6A are really good batteries because they're the latest generation of battery. Thomas Stover, just made my wife's day. Thanks, man. I don't remember her stopping by, but I'm glad I could help out. Michael and Erika Reynolds, is it okay if your wrap covers the insulator? Your wrap has to cover the insulator, or at least part of the way in, as long as it doesn't cover the contact. You want it coming over enough to not peel back, but it doesn't matter if it goes all the way to the edge of the insulator, just so it doesn't cover the contact. Big Guns 78, what's the best 2650 battery? Check my tables. Check my recommended batteries table. They'll be listed there for any of the batteries. Mooch, when will we get Elon Musk's batteries? Why would we want high capacity, low current rated batteries? They're not anything special for us. They're too low. The 5 amp, 10 amp batteries. The Samsung 40, we've got the 48G right now. We've got the NCR 2700B. We've got some high capacity, low current rated batteries. So, the Samsung 50G will be in the market soon, 5,000. There are a couple other, the LG, I don't remember the number for it, 5,000 mAh, 7 amps, 10 amps. So we've already got the batteries. They're the same thing now. Let's see. Dinosaurian Den, thank you for your kind words. Dennis the Menace, put battery Mooch up in the front. Only thing slowed down, so I was able to address it. High voltage vaping. To me, it doesn't matter high voltage, low voltage, as long as I get the vape I want. Since I bounce from, I might use a 3S LiPo box to a single battery mech. What am I looking for? For me, a lot. What's the weather? I don't want a big hot vape on a 95-degree day. On a day like today, yeah, nice rich pastry, blazing hot, 110 watts, and on a pair of dual fuse Claptons or something like that, running at like 0.15, 0.17. That's fantastic. I don't really know what the voltage is. I'll do regulated for that so I can play with it. I know Germany, you like your stack mechs on there. Zach, Trimble, what's up? I think we'll call it quits in 5 minutes. Christine Wright, thank you for your kind words. Libros, oh, come on. 3D printing meathead. Sorry, I thought the Sanyo was 23 amps. Yeah, I made an adjustment on that. Ratings will always be adjusted, all the time. I don't remember why. I don't remember, actually I have no idea why. Sony VTC5 is not in the recommended battery list only because the 5A is better. It's a great battery. It's a fantastic battery. 5A just happens to be better, so that's the one that made the recommended batteries list. A battery not being in the recommended battery list does not mean it's not recommended. It just means it's not on the recommended battery list. New vapors heads explode if you hand them a table with 200 batteries, 100, let's say, Samsung, Sony, LG, Panasonic, Sanyo, and say, you can use any of these. No, you have to bring it down to like 5 choices. They can buy the VTC5 or the HG2 or something like that, and then later on, if they find something better for their specific application, they can, once they learn more, then they'll be like, oh, I think I understand a little more now, I can get that. But otherwise, recommended batteries list is going to stay very short. It is not an indictment of anyone's battery choice off that list. People get all upset because they've been using something for years and it's not on there. It has nothing to do with you or any way you vape. It's a way of making it new vapors' lives easier by really, really shortening the list. Yes, good batteries are left out, but it's just confusing if you put 5 2500 mAh batteries there. They're like, well, what do I get? All I get are questions. Is, all right, which are the best of the best? No, I don't want that. Here, VTC5A, HG2, 30Q, things like that. Travis Harp, have you watched any of Morton's videos? Yes, I have. Fantastic. Technical, well done, amazing stuff that he's uncovering. Michael and Erica Reynolds, buy the packs with 2700 A's in them, pay an electrician to extract them, feel it's worth it. Okay, you've made the choice, you trust him, you've made the choice for the increased risk, you're like, I don't care. And you get the batteries you're looking for out of them. So I'm glad it's working out for you. All right, let's call it 1 more minute. Being that you're using an electrician, do I feel it's safe to recover, to use him to recover? Or if the electrician, there's nothing inherent in being an electrician that means they know how to recover batteries safely. It's not part of an electrician training. Now you'd hope they'd have the awareness to understand what they need to do, but it's up to the individual person. There's nothing about an electrician or an engineer or anything that makes them inherently good to use to recover batteries from a battery pack. Investigate the quality of the work and then make a decision whether you feel it's safe or not. I can't say. I haven't seen the work. Angie G, thank you. Yes, definitely food time. Kevin Ball, we're down to just a few seconds. I'm going to take 3 more questions. Kevin Ball, he said in a video, a married set with a voltage difference of 0.3 should be considered for replacement. Well, 0.3, not 0.03. 0.3 is definitely 0.3, 0.3 volts. But it can be 0.8, 0.285, 0.30. It's not a hard number. It's just, yeah, once you start getting over 0.1, 0.2, start thinking about replacing them. If you see it way over 0.3, yeah, definitely, think about that's a little much. This isn't a quotable number, so don't be glued to that. Just think, but it's not 0.03. 0.3 is definitely 0.3. Okay, 2 more questions. Corey, okay, thank you. No more questions. That's it. Done. We're out of here. Okay, everyone, I want to thank you. I hate these things. Thank you, everyone, for your time, for your awesome questions, and I hope I was able to answer enough of them and didn't miss too many of them. Trying to catch up is a hell of a challenge. I'm not sure if, when I'm doing this or How I'm going to be able to handle the questions, especially if it grows, I don't know, but we'll see what we can do, and we'll take care of it next time. Of course, I have the tablet turned around. I'm going to have to walk off the screen to end this, but thank you again, everyone, for watching.